"Excuse me, ma'am. What are you doing here at this hour?" The harsh voice shattered the gentle silence of the suburban dusk like a stone through glass. Officer Ryan Mercer's tone carried suspicion, authority, and a sharp edge of hostility. Margaret Ellis looked up slowly from her rose bushes, her gloved hands still holding a small pair of garden shears. Her posture remained calm, but her brow furrowed slightly at the intrusion. "Good evening, officer," she replied politely, brushing dirt from her knees. "I'm just tending to these roses. They needed a little love before the frost rolls in." Mercer sneered. The way his eyes scanned her up and down her mocha-toned skin, her gray cardigan, her work-worn slacks made it clear he didn't believe her. "Tending roses? At this hour? In this neighborhood?" he said, letting the disdain drip from each word. "Lady, you don't look like someone who lives on Belmont Hill." "I live here with my son." "Officer," she said, keeping her voice even. "This is his home. I have every right to be in this garden." "Your son lives here?" Mercer echoed with incredulity, stepping forward. "And who exactly would that be?" "Dr. Anthony Ellis, cardiothoracic surgeon. You might have seen his name on a mailbox." Margaret spoke with measured patience. "I'm his mother. And again, I'm on private property where I belong." Mercer scoffed. "Right. Surgeon's mom out here, pruning roses in second-hand shoes. Where's your ID?" "I don't have it on me. I was in my own backyard." "Well, that's convenient. I've done nothing wrong, and I don't have to produce ID on my own property unless I'm suspected of a crime," she stated calmly, quoting the law word for word, which only seemed to enrage him further. "Suspicious behavior is a crime, lady." "Suspicious to whom, officer?" It was that question, direct, articulate, unafraid, that pierced his already thin composure. "I'm going to need you to stay where you are," Mercer said, hand moving to the butt of his weapon. "You're being defiant, and you're hiding something." Margaret took an instinctive step backward. The shears in her hand dipped slightly. Her free hand moved reflexively upward, not as a threat, but in confusion, in fear, in disbelief. To Officer Mercer, it didn't matter. His fear warped perception, fueled by bias and adrenaline. "Drop your weapon," he bellowed. There was no weapon, but he didn't wait to find out. The single gunshot cracked through the quiet neighborhood like thunder in a church. Birds scattered from trees. Porch lights flicked on. Margaret Ellis crumpled where she stood. The roses she'd tended were now stained with her blood. Officer Mercer's hand trembled as he stared at what he'd done. Then came the panic, the self-preservation. He holstered his gun, grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Mercer. Shots fired, suspect, was behaving erratically, appeared armed. I had no choice. I need medical backup." The lie left his lips effortlessly, but his eyes darted to the windows of nearby houses. Several residents had already begun to step out. Some held phones. Some were recording. Sirens wailed in the distance. Paramedics arrived within minutes. They found Margaret Ellis unresponsive, pulse gone. Her sweater soaked through. Her body was laid on a stretcher and covered, her hands still in the gardening gloves. Detective Luis Ramirez was assigned to the scene. A 20-year veteran of the force, Ramirez was calm, methodical, and deeply uncomfortable the moment he arrived. It wasn't just the chaos or the crowd forming behind the crime scene tape. It was the way Mercer looked, unconvincing, jittery, like a man about to drown. Ramirez took control of the scene. "Seal off the yard. Get statements from every neighbor who saw anything. And secure Mercer's body cam footage." Immediately, the officer's weapon was tagged and bagged. The pruning shears lay on the grass stall, garden variety, incapable of harm. Meanwhile, inside the home, officers found Margaret's wallet. Inside, driver's license, Medicare card, family photos, and a small card with emergency contact information. Dr. Anthony Ellis, Chief Cardiothoracic Surgeon, St. Brennan Medical Center, and in parentheses beneath his name, U.S. Army, retired. Detective Ramirez raised an eyebrow. He looked down at the still form on the stretcher. "God help Mercer," he muttered. He made the call himself. "St. Brennan Medical, this is Detective Ramirez from MPD. I need to speak to DR. Anthony Ellis immediately. It's urgent. After a long pause, the calm baritone voice came on the line. This is DR. Ellis. Sir, I'm sorry. There's been an incident at your residence. Your mother, Margaret Ellis, was involved. I regret to inform you she's passed. Silence. Then a breath. One that carried a lifetime of emotion, shock, pain, disbelief. Who? Anthony asked. A patrol officer. His name is Ryan Mercer. The line went dead. Less than 30 minutes later, Anthony Ellis arrived at the scene in scrubs, his face ashen. Where is she? He demanded. Detective Ramirez met him quietly. Sir, we have her inside the ambulance. I want to see her. You'll have to wait for the coroner, DR. Ellis. Please. Where's Mercer? Being questioned in the cruiser. Anthony didn't raise his voice, didn't curse, but the rage in his eyes was unmistakable. He executed my mother, and you damn well better treat this like a murder. It didn't take long for the news to spread. Within 24 hours, the mayor's office had called for a press conference. Civil rights organizations descended upon the neighborhood. The Ellis family attorney confirmed that Margaret Ellis had been shot unarmed on her own property by a patrol officer with a history of misconduct complaints. The FBI took over the investigation within 48 hours. Special Agent Clarissa Dunn from the Civil Rights Division was brought in to lead the case. Known for her reputation of meticulous attention to detail and a zero-tolerance policy for abuse of power, she assembled a team of forensic analysts, legal experts, and body cam technicians. The footage they recovered was damning. There was no ambiguity. The video showed Mercer initiating the confrontation, escalating without cause, making racist insinuations, and ultimately shooting an unarmed woman who posed no threat. Audio enhancement revealed Mercer's tone mocking, aggressive, dripping with disdain. And then came the most devastating moment of all, the sound of the gun being cocked. The silence that followed was the silence of a life ending. The footage, combined with eyewitness testimony, prompted the Department of Justice to act. Ryan Mercer was charged federally with deprivation of rights under color of law resulting in death, use of a firearm during a crime of violence, second-degree murder under state law. Margaret Ellis's funeral was held the following week. Thousands attended. Medical staff, community leaders, veterans, clergy, all came to honor a woman known for kindness, wisdom, and a love of flowers. Dr. Ellis stood behind the pulpit that day, his hands trembling. She raised me to save lives, he said, but she was taken by someone who swore to protect them. My mother is not a symbol. She was a person. But if her death brings the change, she never stopped believing in it. I will fight until the last breath to make that change happen. The trial began 6 months later. The courtroom was tense. Federal prosecutors laid out their case with brutal clarity. They played the footage. They called neighbors to the stand. They showed the pruning shears, introduced psychological profiles of Mercer, and revealed previous complaints filed by citizens, none of which had resulted in serious discipline. The defense was weak. Mercer cried on the stand, claimed he feared for his life, but the footage showed otherwise. The jury deliberated for 4 days. Then the verdict came. Guilty on all counts. During sentencing, the jury recommended life imprisonment. But in a rare move, the judge overruled, citing the exceptionally cruel and racially motivated nature of the act. Ryan Mercer was sentenced to death by lethal injection. In a statement outside the courthouse, Dr. Ellis did not smile. He did not celebrate. But he said something that resonated across the nation. We are not asking for revenge. We are asking to live, to breathe, to garden in peace. My mother deserved that. Margaret Ellis's story became a symbol. Her name etched alongside other victims of systemic injustice. A garden was built in her name, filled with crimson roses. A bill, the Ellis Act, was passed to mandate body cam activation standards and independent civilian review boards in every state-funded law enforcement agency. And in the quiet of Belmont Hill, where gunfire once shattered peace, the roses bloom again.